by sipping on some beer that could taste like Cody Stark because he's got his very own brew now.
Let's hope it looks more like Cody Stark than tastes like him. Cody's Caravan was hanging out in Modesto this morning with the details.
I want to show you the entire beer brewing process in 3 minutes or less. Are you ready? Go!
Barely, but we can do it. So we're here in the grain room. Beer starts as grain. Everything contained within the grain, everything a beer needs is contained within the grain.
Okay.
So we start with a grain.
All right.
First step is milling.
Milling. Go to the miller. Toss it in here.
Toss it in. Turn it on. Our flex auger is going to take all that milled grain from our grain mill over to our grist case. The reason we mill it up is so all of the enzymes in the grain can attack the starches and convert them to sugars, which is later used to produce ethanol. Here's our grist case. We're typically running about 600 to 900 pounds in the grist case.
Okay.
Once the grain gets into the grist case, it's then transferred over through our flex auger to our mash lauter tun. This is where we make barley tea.
Barley tea.
Temps are in between 149 to 160. We make tea for about 60 minutes. We let all those starches convert to sugars so the yeast can eat them and produce ethanol and CO2.
Okay, done.
We then lauter and move the full volume of sweet water essentially into the boil kettle. We end up boiling for about 60 minutes. Part of that process is to convert alpha acids over to bittering to create bitter beer.
Okay.
People actually like bitter beer. One cool thing about Persuasion, our two tanks over here, this is our hot water and our cold water. All water used in the beer making process is reverse osmosis. So we're actually creating a base water based on beer profiles. So if we're making a Czech Pilsner, we're actually mimicking the groundwater from Czechoslovakia.
That's fascinating.
Beer is regional, much like salsa and cheese.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
so
you got to get a minute 10.
We got a minute. Are you sure?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So then we go from boil kettle. We drop the temperature using our heat exchanger, and we send that full volume of beer, typically around 360 to 380 gallons, from our heat exchanger into one of our fermenters. We will ferment. Our primary fermentation will last about 6 days. Beer's in the fermenter for about 14 to 25 days.
Okay.
At some point, we will dry hop the beer. Here's our hops.
Okay.
We use hops as flavoring, regardless of what style.
Okay.
After the fermentation is done, we end up dropping everything out, and then we end up packaging, which is behind you. Part of that packaging process is putting beer in the can. The other and one of the most important processes of getting beer into small packaging is our artwork.
Absolutely.
As you guys saw earlier, artwork is very important. So beer goes from grain. We use grain, water, hops, and yeast. And then we keg it and package it, and we have a label made.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very important. Behind you is Shelby, who's our resident artist.
Shelby.
She produces every label that goes on cans at Persuasion.
She's brilliant. She's brilliant. And then the final process.
Jonas over here can help us out.
Jonas.
Open the can. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. This is the Stark plug.
And there you go. That's the entire beer making process in 3 minutes or less. That looks delicious. That's a good pour, man. That's a good pour.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Fantastic. There you go, guys. Back to you in the studio.
People say Cody has a big head. I think it looks perfect there.